Right, welcome everyone to our webinar here at Firstbeat about building an effective coaching program. So we're here to share our expert tips and have a Q&A session. Hopefully we can dedicate as much time to sort of free conversation as we can. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping rules or housekeeping tips as well. Any questions that you have, if you can write them in the Q&A box. So this way it can be anonymous and we'll be able to see them as well. So if you write in the chat, we won't be monitoring that. So better to use the Q&A section. Also, we will be recording the session. So we want to share it with everyone afterwards, and especially with anyone who wanted to come but couldn't make it. So please be aware that this is recorded. Just to do a quick introduction on us. So here you can see who we are, Tim, Nigel, and myself. I won't go into detail, just in order to save some time and make this as interactive and conversational as possible. But we've all worked within our international business and clients for several years and have experience about a variety of different customer projects, relationships, and business lines. So we're glad to be here today. I'll put you through to Tim, and Tim will take the lead from here on out.
Hi all. It's good to see so many of you here today and also from around the world. We always get a great global following. So hi from all the places from Oz, my hometown, Sydney, I see, all across Europe and to some parts of North America as well. So really good to see you. There are a lot of our existing partners, which is great because today's dedicated to giving you questions and answers. So we'll be having the fireside chat with, our Nigel and Marie. We all come from slightly different areas. I'm more commercial, Nigel coaching, and Maria customer success. So hopefully we can answer all your questions today. But in essence, there will be some new potential partners thinking about joining Firstbeat. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time, very short amount of time, just talking about who Firstbeat are. So Firstbeat are a Finnish-based company. We've been in the area of physiological data measuring and analytics for wellness and sports for over 20 years. We had part of our business that was acquired by Garmin about 2.5 years ago called Firstbeat Analytics. You might know a lot of the world's wearables are powered by Firstbeat Analytics. And then we work with a number of, and this is certainly Nigel's world as well, over 1,000 elite sporting teams, all the way from Aussie rules teams to NFL teams in the US. The area that we're focusing on is really around Firstbeat Life and how Firstbeat Life supports health coaching, wellness coaching, etc., giving the analytics to give powerful impact to your coaching and your programs. So that's what we're talking about more today. We're really cornerstone Firstbeat around heart rate variability measurements and looking at stress and recovery. Although within Firstbeat Life, we also measure other variables such as fitness estimation, sleep, physical activity, as well as quality of sleep as well. Now, we're doing business in over 70 countries, and they're the ones that are in red, and that's growing all the time. Okay. Thank you. And so I think the cornerstones in our USP, and especially if you are looking at Firstbeat being part of your business for your proposition, is the cornerstones of the solution. Really where we're quite different is we look at longitudinal data. So not just in an instant, but we look at almost like longitudinal measurements over 24, 48, 72, maybe even 5 days and nights, but also repeated measurements as well. Because we do know that within healthcare and within wellness and coaching, you need to understand both baseline measurements, but also repeated measurements to see if there's been an improvement in your coaching or your program. So we give you some of the best quality data, accurate ECG-based data around heart rate variability. And that's really where our gold standard data and measurement sets us apart. And we want to provide that for you into your practice. So we've got heaps of papers, scientifically validated. And if you go to our website, you'll see an area on our website called Science. And if you go into that, you'll find all our various studies and white papers as well. So we're very much around looking at 3D movement and heart rate variability. And these are the areas that we really look at. Overload, which is incredibly important at the moment. We do know that one of the biggest issues within corporates being squeezed and overloaded and overstressed. And that's an area that we resonate very well. We're part of a lot of global resilience programs. And that's an area where that balance between stress and recovery is incredibly important. But there's other areas that we look at. So we're looking at physical activity, quality of fitness, sleep and recovery, because a lot of focus is around stress, but it's also as important to get recovery and measure recovery as well. So this is an area that we have a comprehensive tool for you and your business for your for individual health and wellness management. Next slide. Thanks. And this is the key one, really, and this is more certainly Nigel's domain. He knows this incredibly well as being a physiologist, but this is what we're measuring. We're looking at the beat to beat, the RR interval, or heart rate variability, and we're looking at whether that a person is in a what we call a sympathetic dominant or a parasympathetic dominant state. And that's almost like we were talking about cornerstone, but that's a cornerstone of our measurement technology. And we're giving you that as a research grade or gold standard quality of data. We do know that's quite different from, say, PPG measurements on a wristwatch or a ring, where especially when you bring in things like age, comorbidities, and other areas, that we do know that the accuracy is quite different between an ECG trace and a PPG trace as well. So next slide. So we wrap that up into a whole package, and this is called Firstbeat Life. And this is the actual device you can see on the left, very light, very easy to wear, and that's obtaining the quality of the data. Your end clients will have the app of being able to see their results very quickly through Bluetooth, but also our partners and our coaches and our users have a back-end administration portal which sees all the reports in the defined subscription period, so that they're able to coach not just off an assessment, but on a number of assessments over time. So this brings it all together. We plus in terms of corporate groups, we do a lot of corporate group reporting, so that if you're working in the corporate arena, that you can look at anonymous group data and look at trends or risk factors and your actions as at a group level to get deeper insights, but also to look at recommendations based off the group data as well. So this is a whole package. It also comes with training. And so Nigel and Tina, of course, a lot of people know who Tina is, exceptional master coaches that are very much have been involved in developing the course, but also supporting you around your training needs. And that is every partner that comes on, it's essential that you do your Firstbeat Life training. It only takes about 3 to 5 hours, but it gives you the underlying assets and education around heart rate variability and also how to use Firstbeat Life as well. Next slide. So I've whizzed through that because we really wanted to spend most of today talking about questions from you guys around the world. Some partners, existing partners, some people who are new to Firstbeat. So I'll pass you back to the team. I will potentially take more commercial-based questions. Nigel will be looking more around the coaching and the physiology and the research side of things. And Maria, of course, she'll be supporting you around customer success and what is it that makes it a success to your business as well, and how we support you. And that's an essential cornerstone of our business as well. So you've got 3 people from 3 different areas of Firstbeat, and we'd love to get as many questions as you have so that we can answer them. It's your chance now to provide the questions to us, and we can do it in real time. So back to Maria. Hopefully that's been a good snapshot around Firstbeat and Firstbeat Life.
Thanks so much, Tim. And just echoing what Tim said there, that we really want this to be as conversational and interactive as possible. We're here to kind of answer any questions you guys have. No question is out of bounds. We'll try and answer it here, but if we can't, then we'll endeavour to answer them either in the when we send you the recording, or then by other means. Nigel, is there any questions that you want to jump on now from the Q&A box?
Actually, now's quite a good time, actually, Tim, while you're there. So you've had a couple of questions regarding sort of purchasing and getting on board. So one is how do we purchase the device app for clients, and can clients purchase direct? And then another one is what is the usual rental fee in the UK for lending our device to clients?
Okay, good. Two good questions from Sean and Sue. Thank you for those. I'll start with Sean's question. Sean, I'm not sure if you're a current user or not, but in essence, our model really is to work through partners. So partners who then take the service out to their clients. That's a key point about our overall corporate strategy. So I'll be sort of focusing on that. So Sean, I don't know you personally, so I'm going to take it that you are a potential partner or you're a current partner as well. So if you're a potential partner that are looking at Firstbeat Life, the good news today is that you can sign up and have training for free. So we'll talk about that later on today. So it's an easy way to set up at no charge for anyone who's new today coming in the door. But in essence, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. It's very much around almost like a reseller model. So we have a set price for the devices that we sell to you and also for the monthly subscriptions as well. And then we have a couple of different models and potentially, Sean, we can take, and Sue, we can take that offline. But in essence, we will charge you, and there's also training, I should say, as well. So the first thing is you sign up, you have your agreement, you have your contract, and then you have your training. So you undertake your training. And training is really key, really, because it's 6 modules. And I know Nigel will talk about the training in a little bit more detail. But that sets you up for success because you're learning about the whole system, the back-end admin, and how you actually order devices from your portal so that you don't have to come to us all the time. You can actually have the autonomy of ordering from the admin portal. And you can also allocate the subscriptions from the portal as well. So we have a defined monthly price, £9 it starts at per month. And we also have a defined starter pack price on the devices, and they're 115. And they do come down with volume. So there, if you're ordering individual devices and allocating subscriptions on a monthly basis. And then there's obviously training fee, but obviously I said there's no fee for you for training if you come in today, but the normal rack rate price for that is at £250 per specialist. So that's kind of key on an individual level. We also do bulk shipments, so that if you've got a project, and this happens quite a bit, that I get a message from my partner who says, I've got a group of 20, 30 people in the UK that I'm doing a program for, and I need 30 devices. Then you can bulk order those devices to one address, to your address for a kickoff or for a program. And that comes in at a different rate as well. So I'll take that offline and I can send you those details. But in essence, there's the individual order from your admin portal, and then there's a bulk order as well. Do you want to add anything there, Maria? Have I missed anything that is relevant there, or have I covered that comprehensively?
No, I think that was a good good covering of the subject. But I'm sure, Sean, if you have any other burning questions on that, please do contact us after the webinar. Happy to go into more detail.
So just to reiterate, we sell to you at a cost price, and you need obviously to build that into your program, onto your coaching, or then charge your client. So I would always say as a minimum of 36% margin you need to put on top for the device and subscription, but you'll either embed that into your program or embed that into your coaching program. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Sue has asked a question about user rental fee in the UK for lending our device to clients. There's no usual rental fee. It's really up to you what model you want to rent it out to your clients or give it to your clients to keep. There's 2 models that you could do there. If you're sending it out to a client and then getting it back to then use for someone else, you'll probably need to charge a monthly fee or an individual device fee. It's just as long as you're covering the cost base and putting a margin on top. That's key for you guys. But look, where the devices are coming in, really competitively for what they are. So you've got plenty of margin to work with to sell into your client base on an individual or group basis. I think that's covering it quite well there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to add there, we had some questions about pricing beforehand as well. It's just important to remember that it's always, you need to package it within your other services. So at the end of the day, you're selling your own time and expertise. So whatever you value your time at, obviously we have the price for you guys, and then you package up your services with Firstbeat Life and then offer it to your client at a margin suitable for you. So it's not meant as an add-on as such. It's just part of your service, and you can wrap it up into your own expertise area as well.
And yeah, and probably another thing, this is probably touching on Nigel's area, is that you probably want to do a little bit longer measurements and repeated measurements that you see an improvement through your coaching or your program. So, you know, that's why we recommend 3 months as a minimum and onwards. It's not the be all and end all, but it you know, from our perspective, and Nigel might give some credence to this, of why we do that and why it might be a good practice to do that as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in there, Tim, and then I'll take the next question as well, if that's okay. So yeah, I mean, one thing we do encourage with when we're in a coaching relationship, and I think the emphasis in this case is about a relationship with the client, is that we encourage them to try different things out. You know, good, bad, and indifferent. For me, there's no such thing as a bad report. We get a bit fixated with numbers and making sure that our numbers are as high as possible. In actual fact, we can learn a lot from numbers that maybe aren't quite so good, from behaviors that maybe don't support our well-being or our exercise or whatever as much as we maybe think they are. So it's this whole thing about seeing the unseen. So I think, again, part of the coaching process is encouraging people to try things out. So for me, the only bad report is one that we can't explain. So if somebody does get a low number, and we know that, for example, it may be that they were overtraining, or it may be that their timing was wrong, their pre-bed routine, or a whole range of different things, as long as we can explain it, then it doesn't mean to say it's a bad report just because it's a low number. So I think that's the key. And actually that probably relates a little bit to Sophia's question. So Sophia asked, if someone wears the bodyguard device when they have a cold, would you expect to see a higher sympathetic drive, perhaps even during sleep, over the period than usual? So yes, typically anything that would disrupt the body's normal workings. So it might be a cold or some other form of illness, maybe some form of injury or inflammation, or it may be that something's been introduced to the system that's that the body sees as a toxin. So alcohol is a prime example of that. Then you will see more of a sympathetic drive from the system to try and overcome whatever it is that's seen as, if you like, the villain. So if it's alcohol, the body will work hard and go into more sympathetic drive to try and detoxify the alcohol before it can then go into its normal working processes. And similarly with a cold, or like I say, any other form of illness or inflammation. Again, the key to that is making sure that as coaches, we have a relationship with the client such that they can report that back. So again, we can explain it or offset that, you know, down to those sorts of other entities, I suppose.
And I think, Nigel, I just want to touch upon what you said about there not being any bad reports. And I think from personal experience, I can say that actually the reports where I've got less than ideal results, as in, you know, not 100 out of 100, it's actually an opportunity for me to learn more. And those are the reports and sort of measurements results that you can really dive deep into personally and just understand, and then through coaching obviously get even more understanding about how different situations and life events affect you, that you may have thought at one point are either relaxing or stressful, but actually shows that they're quite the opposite. So I think
absolutely, and that's why we encourage. Thank you, Marie. Yeah, I mean that's why we encourage coaching within it, because it's very easy for people, they say, to get fixed on numbers and not take into account context. And it's very, very important that they see context and recognize, you know, why the numbers maybe aren't as high as they'd hoped for, but hopefully can achieve in due course. One from Janine, I see. Can you tell us more about the physical work? I think that's the workload report that's just come in to as very much an optional, and how you use it in the coaching side of the session. Very rarely. I mean, certainly I wouldn't typically use it. To give some background to that, Janine, that was brought in more for sort of occupational health, so larger groups that are looking at overall sort of workload in maybe different roles within, you know, relatively physical jobs, rather than necessarily, one-to-one coaching. So for the large part, certainly for those of us who are doing one-to-one coaching, that's covered. That sort of data and all the other sort of movement data and heart rate response to that data is covered in the other reports. Should I take the next one around Whoop? And we'll put Whoop. And so for those of you who haven't seen, so I'm often asked about how Firstbeat Life is better than wearing a Whoop band, and how we can respond to this. So Whoop, I would sort of bundle in, I guess, with a lot of the other wearables. You know, we've all got, you know, various types that we tend to wear on a day-to-day basis. And I like to think that the lifestyle, the life bodyguard and support system helps to give us a very accurate and well-defined view of what's going on. Obviously, we're not going to wear it every day in the same way as we might with our other devices. So I tend to encourage people to compare and contrast their results on whatever wearable they have, just to make sure that using, Firstbeat as the gold standard, the accurate gold standard, so that they recognize that if it, for example, step count is often quoted as being very different on devices compared to ours. So ours, because it's worn on the body, because it's set at such a tolerance level that it only picks up deliberate steps. So if you're sort of shuffling around in your slippers and you're not really moving around with any purpose, and therefore not getting any great physical benefit from it, then it won't record it as a step. So that tends to be a little bit more accurate than some of the others that are there.
Yeah, I don't mind jumping in as well. I don't think it's one or the other. Exactly what you said, Nigel. I think they're very, very different. It's like an apple and an orange. You know, one is a continual monitoring, not so much a coaching tool. You might do that, but it hasn't got the back end coaching that I'm aware of that does that great insights. So actually they could work quite nicely together. And often we do that with clients, that they're continually monitoring with their Garmin or their Whoop or whatever, but they get deeper insights and coaching with their Firstbeat Life solution. You do also realize with PPG, there are some limitations. And as I said before, if you're comparing both around an athletic population, maybe of a Caucasian population, then they're pretty similar. But when you start looking at skin tone, skin type, age, comorbidities, the accuracy does change quite a bit between ECG type measurement and PPG type measurement as well. So do be aware of that. And that a lot of news came out about that through the pandemic around the inaccuracies in a medical setting. So just be aware of that as well.
Thanks so much, Nigel and Tim. I think the next two questions I can take more from sort of a service point of view. So Jonathan's asked, how do you replace the electrodes on a 3 or 6 month subscription? So any length subscription, the end user can order more electrodes through the application. So all they need to do is go in there and order some electrodes, and it's currently free of charge. So the end users can just order electrodes to their house via post whenever they need more. So that's possible for everyone. And then Brad has asked if the devices are reusable, so essentially reassignable from one client to another after a program has ended. Yes, this is possible. So there's no limitations to that. So you can buy, Tim mentioned the bulk shipment. So you can buy devices in bulk to have and keep yourself, and then you handle the logistics to your clients. So you can give them for, say, a 6-month program to a group of users, after which you take the devices back and then you can reassign them to a future group. That is possible. There's a couple of things to keep in mind, from which the most important is that before you get those devices back from an end user, just make sure they've analyzed the most recent results of a measurement, because once that device has been reassigned to someone else, there's no possibility of getting that data back. So just bear that in mind. And Sophia has asked, she's planning to build a data-driven coaching business, which in the first instance would rely upon my partnership with Firstbeat Life. The obvious risk here is that I'd be then at the mercy of future price increases by Firstbeat. What are your thoughts on this, Tim?
Yeah, so we have had a couple of price increases, and they're certainly not mainly coming out of the pandemic and just getting the Firstbeat Life pricing right when we as the go-to market strategy. There is no there's no focus or discussion about price increases, and we would give you plenty of warning if there was, but certainly at this stage that's not even being talked about. So pricing is what it is. It started, I think it was February or March, pardon my ignorance, but it was sort of then. So there's certainly not, there's going to be a stability around pricing for some time.
Thanks, Tim. And then Dave has asked about some current corporate offerings, and that you have sold a number already to corporate clients. Congratulations, that's great news, Dave. So you were just asking for some examples on how best you could package the Firstbeat Life to sell as a service.
So I don't mind taking that, and then maybe Nigel might chip in, or yourself, Maria. So the key thing I reckon is you're selling your business, number one. The technology follows. So our technology is a supportive tool, or it's not the lead actor in Hollywood, we're the supporting actor. So it's very much around what your proposition is. It resilience? Is it a wellness program? What is it that's defining you? Is it education? Is it coaching? So I would always stick with that, and Firstbeat is one part of that offering. That's where I see it win time and time again. So that's sort of point number one. Point number two is keep it simple. Start small, build up from there. So don't jump into a 100-person project with people in 5 different continents. Don't make it too complex. You can do that, but we've got providers that do that, but they've been doing it for a long time and their operations are quite slick. I would start small and simple and build up from them. I think it's always good to have sort of a kickoff and have a face-to-face maybe with the people in the room, because you can articulate how to get them set up and get them the devices. But you can do that virtually as well. It's really down to your business and your practice and what's your USP. But here we're supporting an actor or actress to support your business.
Thanks, Tim. And Jacek has asked about the pairing of the device with the app when you rent it to different end users. So yes, this is a quite recent development in such that you can, I'm assuming you're talking about the sort of reassigning the same device after a project ends. So that is possible, and there's no need to kind of do anything else except to remind them to analyze the most recent measurement. So once you receive that device back and you give it to another user who then pairs it to their device, any data that might be left there is erased, and then it's ready for use for the new user. So there's no danger of data being mixed up or misplaced, and you can just go ahead with pairing the device to a new user. So it doesn't require anything more complicated than that.
The only thing we'd obviously advise is just that you make sure that the battery's topped up before you send it off, just as a sort of belt and braces. So exactly. Don't have any problems first up. But no, it's designed to do that now, so it's a very, very simple process, thankfully.
Thanks, Nige, for the clarification there. I think Scott's got a question addressed to Tim. So Tim, if you take
Hi, Scott. I think I know who you are. I do know who you are. I think you're Mr. Yoga. I know you're a corporate yoga man. Is that right? I think you are. Doing an amazing job in the City of London, if I've got the right person. So correct me if I'm wrong. But if you're doing really, really big groups, yeah, obviously there needs to be a budget because it is hardware and software. So it will be a cost. There is ways to do it that means that you haven't the logistics of a huge amount of coaching sessions don't need to be done, and that's key. Often we find that I guess the barrier is if you do thousands, that each of them need a number of coaching sessions, and that pushes the price up considerably on the quote. you can do batches on group coaching, and maybe Nigel might jump in on this, that could make it more affordable for the organisation. Obviously, we do if you do bulk orders, we do significant discounts on volume, so that, on the hardware costs, that might help, but it's really on the individual coaching costs that can push that quote quite considerably. So group coaching, I would suggest, for that numbers of employees. But with that group level, you can do some amazing stuff on the group level data of stress recovery, sleep, physical exercise, and fitness levels. So, we've done some really big projects with a company out of Liechtenstein in Switzerland. We did a global project with, I can't remember how many thousands, it was like tens or 20s of thousands, and we're still supporting them today. So it's feasible. Nigel, anything on the group side?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point. Obviously we're talking about building effective coaching programs here, and it doesn't all have to be one-to-one. I mean, in an ideal perfect scenario, it would be so that people can really get into the nitty-gritty of their own data and their understanding of how the app will work for them and the way they live their lives. But there are significant learnings from the group session. So you could do a group feedback session to maybe doing almost like a Q&A like this, maybe even just picking out individual examples of data where people are prepared to share. We know a lot about the sort of the ripple effect of whether it be mental health, both good and bad, I guess. So for people to get a better understanding of what their co-workers are going through, and to understand the impact that their behaviors, for example, can have on other people is a really good learning. So yes, in an ideal world, you'd have multi-touch point individual one-to-one coaching, but you really can get some really insightful learnings and some good group learnings from the bigger groups that go together. So hopefully that helps. One from James there, looks like it's one for me, is a way to look at the graph and distinguish between excessive stress versus daily or normal stress levels. Yes, absolutely, James. Maybe one to sort of explain offline, but yeah, again, it's about putting into context for that individual. So there's no such thing as bad stress as such. It's a perfectly normal response to things that may be going on in daily life, in family life, or in sort of an individual's health. It's really a case of looking at the balance between those. So they might be full on and complete red during the day, which is not ideal, but as long as they're getting very good sleep and recovering and recharging their batteries from that, then for a short period of time, then we'll say, look, we can accept that. Obviously, if that's not happening, if that's happening for too long, then we need to maybe address that. So hopefully that's answered that one.
Next one's for you, Nigel, as well.
Say again, sorry, Tim.
I was just saying, I think the next one's for you as well.
Yeah, I'll get that. So do any of the journal entries, sleep, alcohol, etc., have any impact whatsoever on the algorithms that produce the results data? Are they totally disconnected? So obviously, so when you define this, or when the client defines a sleep time, hopefully that's accurate. Sometimes it's not, and you may need to help coach them to make sure that they're putting it in accurately, bearing in mind that they can see the data themselves and remind themselves retrospectively as to when they went to sleep. But so you can't override, you as a coach can't override that. So once it's put in, unfortunately, all the sleep calculations will be done on that self-report sleep. And so in that respect, the different algorithms are applied to that defined sleep period. But the alcohol and any of the others, apart from the fitness walk, are subject to just the standard algorithms, if you like. But again, it's important that people do report that alcohol, and particularly the actual units. So there's a lot of sort of confusion out there as to what one unit is. So it's important to, if somebody is drinking and maybe not recovering particularly well, or their good quality sleep is delayed in the sort of early stages of sleep, it may be worth just making sure that they're reporting it as units as opposed to drinks or whatever.
The next one might be mine. I think it's James. Hi, James. Good to see you again, as always. If you don't have any experience or results using Firstbeat to work with corporate clients, how would you promote a new service? Yeah, I think again, Firstbeat playing a supportive supporting actor or actress, how would you promote? I would be leading with what you think is the right solution for that corporate. Is it weight management? Is it stress and resilience? Is it overall wellness program? You know, is it a coaching program looking at behavioral change? What is it that you think is your USP that you can take to that client to win the business? And then we play a secondary role in terms of being a great secondary role, great product, great data, but it's really supporting what you're doing. So I would always lead with what you think is the right USP. I think, you know, resilience is one that is very big out there, and burnout and preventing burnout. That seems to be, you know, talking to the insurers, talking to the corporates, one of the biggest costs, mental health, obviously. The program needs to be wrapped up, obviously, where the budget is and where the spend is, etc. And it's need to be framed. I'd always, when I go to a corporate, find out what is their biggest issue. Is it mental health? Is it burnout, etc. And then frame it around that. So there's a lot of conversations to have with the corporate to see what will resonate, what will stick, and then we come in and support you.
And I think it's a great way to get started is your existing clients. So your network that you've already built, and it's something that you can then gain the relevant sort of experience and confidence in using Firstbeat as a part of your services. So that's been proven to be a good method to start with as well. Thanks, Tim. I think Paul's question is more, Nigel, for you.
Yeah. So yes, Paul, you can, and yes, it does work out daily. Jesus keeps jumping. There we go. Daily energy expenditure. Obviously, it's all derived from heart rate, and it's derived from the current heart rate versus the maximum heart rate that it has on record. So the more accurate we can be with that, the better. Can you differentiate between exercise activity? Yeah, so it'll distinguish between the two on that as well. And over the years it has proved, and again Tim mentioned the white papers. We've done quite a lot of studies on energy expenditure and its accuracy, and it does stand up. I think it's looking at about 7% accuracy compared to, I think, double labeled waters currently between 2 and 3%. So you don't have to go through all the faff of that. You get, you know, quite a good, a very accurate measure. And again, what you do have, and particularly if people are putting in the diary markers correctly, which they'll be encouraged to, if they don't first time and you encourage them, they'll probably put more in than they maybe need the next time. That's all part of that sort of learning process. Then that provides the context for you, which is just as important, if not more important, than the actual data itself. Well, from Marianne, should I take that? If you have a group of X3 persons, can you read the individual results of each by the heart rate curves? So I think I don't know if you're confusing that with the group reports there, Marianne. So typically need, if I remember, it's 6 or 8 to constitute a group report. So you would be relying on the individual report, which, you know, when you've got a group that's, you know, small like that, that's probably more important to do anyway. I certainly wouldn't be looking at grouping anything less than 8, really.
Thanks, Nigel. And it's actually in between. It's 7 people minimum to get a group report.
Oh, are you somewhere between 6 and 8? That's not bad, is it?
No, it's not. It was exactly right. And I think Wendy's question, I can take that. So it's about the logistics of loaning out the devices. So obviously logistics, if you do want to reassign the same devices, so use them sort of per program or per project, all the logistics is sort of handled by you as a service provider. So I would say if you have 2 clients, for example, and you do want to conduct measurements in the same time period, then you would need 2 devices, because the minimum subscription length is 3 months. So I would suggest that you just stockpile a few devices for yourself, which you can then use per sort of project or program. So it's not you know, doing the 3-day tests. That was kind of the old model, and the beauty of Firstbeat Life is that you can get that consistency and get them to get you client to measure multiple times, and through that you learn obviously more and can help with more sort of in-depth coaching as you get to learn that client's physiology. James, what is the difference between the research application and the coaching Firstbeat application? So I think you're sort of referring to the Bodyguard 3 used in research. So in that case, if it is that option, then you are just using the raw data from the device. So you won't have the opportunity to do the Firstbeat Life reporting, which is what the end users and yourself get through the Firstbeat application. So those are two different methods of using.
Yeah, and then just to reiterate, it's research application. It is a PO or a purchase order from a research institution. So it is for research purposes. And they tend to want the raw data off the device because of the accuracy. They don't always want our analytics that are more focused on a coaching methodology. So that's kind of the difference. One's more of a commercial model, the coaching Firstbeat application, and one's dedicated for research and obviously is extracting raw data or data. I don't know. Everyone gives me a hard time for how I say data.
Data, Timothy. But yeah, exactly that. I mean, again, we can send you some information on the data that comes out, both the scalar and the vector data. But yeah, it's for most people that wouldn't be of any relevance, but obviously for researchers, it's extremely, as you would expect, data rich. And, it's got a lot of information in it.
Thank you. Just bearing in mind, we only have 2 minutes left in today's session. So thank you everyone so much for sending in plenty of questions. I think we will have time to maybe tackle one more, and then we'll endeavour to answer the others offline to each.
I think there's Sophia. I can come back to you. I see a few of your questions there, so I can take that direct to you offline. Jonathan, I've got your question there about Australia. I can take that offline with you. We know, just quickly, we haven't got a stockpile there, but maybe in the future. But I wonder if we take one that's more clinically focused, or just trying to see, what do you think there, Maria?
Yes, let's see.
We're inundated with questions and they're flowing
yes.
in.
Well, I think I can answer a couple just sort of off the bat here very quickly. So Jane, you've asked if the client data is permanently available. No, that is not the case. The data is available to you as a service provider during an active subscription. However, for the end user, the data is available for them until sort of they request for it to be removed or otherwise stated by GDPR. But for the service provider yourself, it needs to be an active subscription when you can see the data. And Timo has asked about the electrodes. If you're sort of recycling devices, those new users can also order it through the application. Obviously, then they have to wait for a little bit, or then you can also bulk order the electrodes and then give them to new users.
Cool. Darang, I'm happy to talk to you offline around that, but the short answer is yes. A lot of both research and practical daily applications on how HRV and our system can support and certainly see sort of, you know, the wellness sides and obviously the emotions and mental health. Quick one to Kelly, use the device with corporate clients. What's the most important for me to understand to use with an athlete? Whatever the athlete needs, Kelly, I think, you know, it changes from one to the other. Obviously, you can look at training load, you can look at recovery, you can look at sleep. Again, you can look at, you know, the overall load of life on that individual. But for me, certainly with the experience I've had with sports teams, is it's just such a great support tool for education, just to make them realize why it is that we talk about, you know, phone habits that, you know, are late at night, while we talk about the need for restorative sleep, so it's supporting them as a sporting athlete as opposed to the guys you work with, or the corporate athletes.
Thanks.
There's a quick, maybe the last one, Maria. What's the timeline for the data export tool? We got that. I think that's a good question. That's come up a couple of times for me recently. Have we got a timeline on that, on the roadmap?
I can't give an exact answer now, but I would say that relatively soon. So we'll definitely let you know once that's happening. Great question, and it is on our radar, and very soon we can let you know the good news.
And that was Timo's question as well, raw data on a regular subscription. So it's coming, and it's not too far around the corner.
Yes, but thank you so much, guys. A minute over, as you can tell, myself, Tim and Nigel would love to talk to you guys for hours and hours on end. But thank you so much for joining us today, and you will receive a recording afterwards, and we will endeavour to answer all the questions that we didn't have time for today. But thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully see you all soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Go well.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.